Hello and welcome. In this lesson, we'll be looking at modes on the piano. We'll be looking at what mode scales are, how modes work in music, how to play modes on the piano, specifically the Dorian, Mixolydian, Lydian, and the Phrygian church modes, and more. Don't forget to snag your free 100-day practice challenge, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss a lesson. So if you're ready, let's get started. So we're going to start off with the Ionian, and this is basically just a really fancy name for what we call today the C major scale, the fancy C major scale. And we're going to be using the note C as our reference point for all scales in this lesson. So I'm sure you know the C major scale. The notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now this scale should sound very easy and simple and very familiar to you. Now let's put our seatbelts on because we're going to start getting into some scale modes that maybe you haven't heard before. So the next modal scale is the Dorian, and the Dorian is, a way you can think about it is, it's the C major scale, but the third is flattened, so the E is flat, as well as the seventh is flat. So it's kind of like the B major scale, which I'll show you in a second, but let's just listen to it once. Might sound a little bit different than you're used to. So again, the E is flattened, and the B is also flattened. Now, a little background on this scale. Dorian was thought to be especially useful in the education of youth. It was supposed to inspire for love, for the law, strict obedience, courage, self-esteem, and independence. Now, these are just some sources from ancient texts. I don't know if they still apply today. You let me know if you think that they apply. So we talked about how this scale is like the B flat major scale. So now that we have this in our minds, let's listen to the B flat major scale. Now, if you look at how that's similar, in B flat, the E is flatted and the B is flatted, just like it was in the Dorian. It helps if you think about making comparisons to the scales that you're familiar with today. It'll make it a lot easier not only for you to memorize, but it'll make it really easy for you as well if you want to add this in your compositions and in your improvisation. The next scale we're going to look at is called the Phrygian. Now, this is an interesting scale as well. And the notes that are flattened are the second, so that's D is flattened, the E is flattened, the A is flattened, and the B is also flattened. Now, I want you to not be too overwhelmed by this, but let me play it for you first and let's listen to it. Again, this is the Phrygian mode. Now, in my mind, that doesn't sound too unusual. Maybe a little bit unusual, but not totally unheard of. Now, Aristotle linked the magic of being able to inspire and linked this scale, the Phrygian scale, with the Dorian mode. So I can see why he did that, but I think it's interesting to always have an ancient/historical perspective. So the other thing I want to draw to your attention, the D is flatted, the E is flatted, with the A flat and the B flat. This is like the A flat major scale. So I want you to keep in mind the notes that were flattened in the Phrygian scale. And now we're going to look at the A major scale. So A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat. So it's very, very, very similar, right? So again, that's another way to think of the Phrygian mode. It's just like an A flat major scale. The Lydian mode. Now this is interesting as well. And I like this one because it again seems familiar, but at the same time a little odd. So the Lydian is a C major scale with the fourth is raised a half step, it's sharped. So it's like the G major scale. Now Plato viewed the Lydian scale, this scale, as voluptuous, sensual, and suitable for romance. Now, Aristotle linked this mode to the power of awakening a love for purity and modesty. So, although Plato and Aristotle have linked this scale to love, I think they're coming at it from slightly different perspectives. So, let me play it for you one time. Now, to me, it doesn't sound unfamiliar, but it almost sounds a bit unfinished, kind of like a deceptive cadence or maybe like a half cadence. I don't know, in my mind, that's just what it sounds like. But here's a great and easy, fast, quick way to remember the Lydian scale. So the Lydian scale is just like the G major scale because it has the F that is sharp. So all you need to do is when you're playing the Lydian mode scale, just think about the G major scale. And the G major scale is F sharp, G, okay? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I want to give you enough hints, so if you want to add these into your composing and your improvisation, you don't have to go back and think about, oh, what was that Lydian scale? You just think, oh, yes, it's like the G major scale, but starting with the C as the bass note. So let's keep moving on. The next scale is the Mixolydian. So the Mixolydian is interesting, and it only has one note that is changed. Similar to the Lydian, it's a Mixolydian. They're related, but that's for a different video. So in the Mixolydian, the seventh is taken down a half step. So you're going to flat the B to a B flat. So here's what it sounds like. Now, I think this sounds a little bit neo-jazz, maybe neo-soul. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't sound too unfamiliar to me, but let's listen to it one more time. Flat the B flat and up to C. So this scale is very much is the F major scale basically. So let's look at the F major scale, and the F major scale reads B flat. So basically, the Mixolydian is the F major scale because we're going to flat that B flat. Now, we have two more scales to go, and the second to the last scale is the Aeolian. And this, if you've studied piano at any point in your life, you'll know that this is the natural minor scale. And there's really not much more to say about it. So the Aeolian is the natural minor scale. Now we're going to end learning these modes with the Locrian. And honestly, when I first was looking at this, I was thinking, now, I wonder how I can relate that to something. And I don't know, I think Debussy used this in some of his compositions, and I know that post-romantic composers like to use the scale. So before I begin talking about it, let's just take a quick listen. Right? It sounds a bit eerie, almost iridescent, almost like a glassy water. That's the sound that I hear. So this has a minor. They've actually lowered the D to D flat, the E to E flat, the G to G flat, the A to A flat, and the B to the B flat. So there are a lot of changes, and this one you just really basically just have to memorize it. I can't think of any ways. Maybe you can let me know if you have a particular device that you use to memorize this scale, but you just have to know it, and sometimes that's the way it is in music. You just have to practice. So C, D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C. Now, I guess I would say that with this scale, it does give you some sense of relief. Some of the other scales kind of leave you thinking, I wonder if they forgot to finish a scale. But to me, even though it's a little just junked in the middle of the scale, the end sounds really nice. It's a bit of a lift, and I really like that. One way I guess you could think about the Locrian scale would be the C sharp minor scale. And the notes are C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C. Okay, so again, you'll have to go through and figure out what works best for you, which modes you want to add into your composition, into your improvisation, and feel free to mix them up. You can also, you don't have to start with C. You can start on the note F, you can start on G, you can start on D, any note that makes sense to you. Congratulations, you've completed this lesson. See you in the next lesson.